Are you ready to be less overwhelmed with your calendar? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the best ways to be less and less overwhelmed with your calendar, especially if you find yourself being just overwhelmed with the back-to-back meetings or your life just feeling a little bit less in control. So first off, before we go into anything else, the first thing is to kind of decide what kind of calendar works best with you, whether that is on a iPad or on your phone, or if it's an actual notebook of a calendar, or if you're just using Google Calendar, just like for myself. And that's what works for me. You can download everything off of Etsy or anything else, but if you're not going to use it, it's not going to matter. So choose your platform first, and then we'll start going through everything else. Now, the first thing is to make sure that you add life into your calendar. What I mean by this is something that I was taught by my business coach, where he talked about making sure that you actually add bits and pieces of your life into your calendar rather than scheduling your life around it. So adding the times that you sleep, adding the times that you eat, adding the times where you need a little bit of a break in between is going to be important. So for me, as I'm running two businesses, I make sure that 10 o'clock onwards, there's no more meetings. If I really have to, let's say there's a US client that's all the way on the other side of the world that I really need to have a meeting with, I will do that probably once in a month or sometimes even in a quarter. It's like I rarely have it happen because I want to respect the boundaries that I'm setting for myself. It's the same thing for my meal times. It's the same thing for when I need a break in between meetings, when I don't want to have my afternoons basically just look like one straight line of back-to-back meetings. So I put in a little break in between, whether I'm just gonna plop around on my bed or actually go on a 30-minute walk, whatever that looks like, as long as I'm giving myself a little space to breathe. So what that looks like is 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, there's no meetings on there because that's my sleep time. And then on 10 o'clock, because I fast, that's when I have my first meal. And then around 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I have my second meal of the day, and that's basically it. And then at 6 o'clock, I have a break there just for me to go out if I haven't left basically the whole day, just because that's the thing when you work from home. And I also have there my workout time. That way I don't have any excuse to skip them unless I'm not really feeling good, is I do have it actually on my calendar scheduled out. So then nothing overlaps it. Again, less excuses as well. You can also add birthdays, anniversaries, special reminders on there. So you're scheduling things the way that you want them to be scheduled rather than letting life kind of just happen to you. You're taking charge of it. Next is to start labeling events. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you're working with an executive assistant or you're working with someone else who helps manage your schedule. Then you can work with this person to have them know what are important events to you, what are things that are movable, and what are less movable, basically. So for me, I have 4 labels that I work with my executive assistant on. The first one are mountain meetings. These are like really hard to move and would be like moving heaven and earth, literally. That's why I call them mountain meetings. The second one are boulder meetings. These are kind of movable, but there's a little bit of effort to be able to move them. There are rock meetings, which is easier to kind of lift and put down. And pebble meetings are even ones that I'm not even considering going, but I do want them on my calendar for one reason or the other. Now, mountain meetings for me are like team meetings, things that I've set with a lot of people that are going to be harder for me again to move. The boulder meetings are essentially ones maybe with clients where I can move them, I can ask them to be pushed down or pushed up, basically depending on life events. And then rock meetings are usually just check-ins with different people in my life. And honestly, for pebble meetings, I will even have them on a separate calendar, so I just have it in access. So for example, I'm part of a mastermind group, so every other week we have a meetup. So for me, I have that on my pebble calendar, so then when I do decide that, hey, I want to attend that one, actually I can move it from one calendar to the other pretty easily. So that's kind of one of the ways that you can kind of keep yourself in check, kind of make it easier for the other person to manage your calendar. And when things are louder than everything else, is that becomes your default basically for yourself as you're managing yourself, to make it just a little bit easier. Next, and this is a really important one, is to make sure to add buffer time. What I mean by this is, especially for people like me where I'm used to kind of working from home or a coffee shop or anywhere else, I like to add a little buffer time if for a rare event basically I'm meeting someone in person. So this could be getting ready time, this could be travel time, this could be kind of also getting out of a meeting time. So for me on my calendar, no one can book basically 2 back-to-back meetings. No one can also book within, like, let's say I have an hour meeting here, the next one is an hour meeting. I usually try to have a 30-minute buffer time in between for me to be able to breathe and think. And this is again making sure that I avoid that burnout myself and also giving respect to the next person, because if I haven't been able to recharge and think a little bit, it's going to be unfair for the next person that I'm doing the meeting with, because I'm still kind of processing everything from the last meeting that I was in. Next is use tools. Now again, whether you are using a paper calendar, you're journaling on your iPad, or you have a digital calendar using Google Calendar, it's still important to use tools to make that part a little bit easier for yourself. Now, whether you're using scheduling tool like Calendly for myself, so I don't have to go back and forth with people on making sure things are actually on my calendar, or maybe you're using an automation where every time this is this kind of event, it sends out a particular email. Kind of find different ways to just make your calendar management just a little bit easier for yourself, so then it doesn't have to be this chaotic thing that every time someone sends you an invite, you have to send them this kind of email. It already becomes an automation for you. For me, I just use tools like Zapier, and I'm starting to experiment with using make.com. So anytime that a particular invite comes in, it triggers an email automation, it triggers something in my CRM, so then I know this is the person I'm meeting with. Kind of find different ways to, again, to give yourself context as you're going through your day to day. And finally, and honestly, this is more of an advice to myself often enough more than other people, is do try to have a habit to check your calendar regularly. And this is coming from someone who has sadly misplaced meetings, who has sadly thought it was just a 7 a.m. meeting. There was a 7 p.m. meeting apparently. And this is essentially going into the habit of when you're starting your day, make it a habit to look at your calendar. Whether you are checking your calendars for the meetings for the day, or that might be priorities that you are putting up on it, or just a simple fact of like, let's say tomorrow is your friend's birthday, then you have time to actually look at how your week is going to look like, or how your month is going to look like, and be able to actually plan through it rather than, again, letting life plan you. Managing your calendar doesn't have to be this big complicated thing. It doesn't have to be, oh, like this person's using time blocking, this person is using this kind of method. You have to find a way that works for you, or else you'll never ever use it. And this is coming from someone who has the downloaded files or PDFs of journaling on Etsy that I've never ever used, and as someone who did try having a physical calendar, going back into Google Calendar anyway, and it works best for me. It is important to find a way that makes sense for you to be able to work with your calendar, and to enable yourself to have a little breathing space, have a little buffer time, so you don't have to feel as overwhelmed with your calendar. Now, if you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there, and comment below what are your best tips when it comes to managing your own calendar. I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home. So make sure to check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!